Welcome back from the ad break, and let us continue from where we left off. As we have said, we're going to be looking at our three concepts. So the first one would be the arrangement of our elements. Now, how are the elements arranged? So they are arranged in a periodic table, as you know what that is. And then our periodic table, it shows all the elements in the universe that we may have known and also that we may have not known. And then these elements are organized in terms of their chemical properties. Now, in the organization of the periodic table, we have something called groups, and then those are vertically down. So on each and every column on the periodic table, those ones are known as groups. And then these groups are also known as families. As you know that in families, we have similar characteristics, we have similar traits, as with the periodic table. So the groups are numbered from group number 1 all the way to group number 18, starting from the left-hand side all the way to the right-hand side. So most groups are named by the first elements in the column. So you find that in each and every group, there's a first element on each and every column. Like for instance, in a case of a group number 14, the first element there is carbon, so then that group will be known as the carbon family. Some other groups in the periodic table, they have names, like for instance, group 1, those ones are known as alkali metals, and then group 2, those ones are known as alkali earth metals. And as you proceed with others, we're going to be giving you the names of them. Now, again, with the periodic table, we have said that we have with the arrangement is in terms of the groups. Now that's being the vertically going down. We also have the horizontal rows, which those ones are known as our periods. Now, the periodic table is also arranged in horizontal rows known as periods. And then a period contains a series of different elements, just as a week, it has different days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Thursday. All the way to Sunday. Now, as you move across the period from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, the properties of these elements, they change. You find that you're moving from the metals to the metalloids to the non-metals because you're moving across the period. Right, this is what I mean by moving across the period and moving from top to bottom, the groups and the periods. So as we can see, going down from the top, going down, those ones are groups. So you have group 1 all the way to group 18 from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And then we have periods which are going across horizontally. That is, now we have period 1, period 2, 3, all the way down to period number 7. And as we have said, as you're moving along across the periods, their properties, they change. We are starting from the metals, going all the way to the metalloids, and remember, they can also be referred to as semi-metals. From the metalloids all the way to the non-metals. So as you're moving across the periodic tables, the properties of these elements, they change. But as you're moving from top to bottom, they all have similar characteristics, they have similar traits, because those are known as families. Right. Now, what is it that you find in the periodic table when you zoom into one element? What is it that you find? So in the periodic table, we know that each element is identified by the following. Firstly, by the unique name. So each and every one of those elements in that periodic table, they each have different names. And then they're also now identified by their atomic number. As we have seen that they have unique names, they also have unique atomic numbers. Now, what are those atomic numbers? So the atomic numbers, they are actually equals to the number of protons. They give us the number of protons that each element has. And then as we can see from the example that we have here, we have Mg, we have our magnesium being our unique name, and then we have the 12, which is our atomic number. And then we also have the symbol. So each and every one of those elements in the periodic table is identified by the symbol. So each symbol is different from one element to the other. In the case of this one, magnesium, we have Mg, the capital letter M and the small letter G. Now, let's go into detail into what we find and look at a different element now. So we're looking at Cl now. It's different from the magnesium that we just seen now. As we can see, the name is different. It's chlorine. And then number 2, we have the atomic number. Again, remember, it's different from the one that you've just seen now. And then the atomic number indicates the number of protons that each and every one of those elements have. As we have seen with the magnesium, it had 12 protons, but with our chlorine here, it has 17 protons. And then you also have the chemical symbol, which is the abbreviation of the element's name. However, it's abbreviated differently, as we have said. So sometimes you find that 1 or 2 letters that are given for the symbol, which are always abbreviated, and the first letter is always capitalized, and the second letter is always in a lowercase. Then the last number that you find in our periodic table or in our element as we zoom in is the atomic mass. And the atomic mass is actually the sum of the number of protons and the number of neutrons that you find for each and every one of these elements. Right, let's carry on. So we have seen how the elements are arranged in terms of the groups and the periods, in terms of the atomic numbers as well. Now let's look at the properties of these elements that we find in the periodic table. And namely, they are the metals, the semi-metals, and the nonmetals. Keep in mind that the semi-metals are sometimes referred to as metalloid depending on the periodic table that you are using. So, now, as we have said that the periodic table is always categorized in terms of these 3 categories. We have the metals, we have the semi-metals, and we have the non-metals. And remember, keep this in mind always. So, this is what I mean by a periodic table being categorized into 3 main categories. We have our left-hand side being the metals. We have the ones in the middle there, somewhere at the center. Those ones are our metalloids or semi-metals. And then the last ones, those are going to be our metals those are going to be our non-metals from the periodic table. Now let's zoom into them and see what we find. So what are the properties of these things? Firstly, we're going to be looking at our metals, which are found on the left-hand side of our periodic table. So metals, they're very good conductors of electricity and also heat. Metals are also shiny. Metals are ductile, which means that they can be stretched into thin wires. And then our metals, again, are malleable, meaning that they can be pounded into thin sheets of metal. So the last one, the chemical property of most metals is their reaction with water, which results in corrosion, meaning that if it reacts with water, it can rust. So now, what's important to note is that not all metals are attracted to a magnet, and not all metals can rust. For an example, aluminum, it is not attracted to magnet, and also it cannot rust. Phew, that was a mouthful. Let's quickly take an ad break, and then we'll come back. See you after this.